Hi, I'm Amy of Amy Nicole Floral, and on today's episode, I want to teach you how to make my version of a fall-inspired wreath. Now, I'm going to start with a grapevine wreath. This is a wonderful and easy way to make a wreath because you can simply push a stem into the base. Now, obviously, this wreath won't have a water source, but this would be a great hostess gift, something for a photo shoot, or just something to enjoy for yourself. And I'm going to show you how to secure on some larger items, as well as just design around those items again by pushing them right directly into the wreath. I'm going to be using some Oasis bind-it wire as well, and I'll link this item below in the comment section so that you can know where to find this. And I'm going to be using just a variety of fall textures and colors. So this grapevine wreath is very inexpensive. You can usually find them at a floral wholesaler or really any kind of Michael's or any craft store. So what I like about them is they're a good mechanic for just underneath. I don't really love the way that they tend to look on their own, but I think they really work well when you're trying to build something on top of them. So I'm going to take these two pieces of driftwood. I actually found these quite a while back, and I'm taking them, I'm going to just loop this wire through and wire them right onto the wreath. And I'm looking at their shape and their form. I think when you think of fall, at least for me, I think all about texture. And texture in general is just one of my favorite things to play with. And I think fall really allows us to highlight the texture of different plant material. So having a larger item on here, I think will be help us create a strong focal. That's on there really well just by using a little bit of bind wire. This one right here, I think I had another piece of wire. There we go. This is a lichen branch. Same thing, found this in nature. And I live right now I live in Los Angeles. So I was out of town and did not find this in Los Angeles, but found this on a hike. And I absolutely love the vibrant colors. So if you don't live somewhere where you can go for a hike, or you want to just more easily find it, you can easily buy lichen branches through most floral wholesalers. So I'm going to kind of position it a little bit of an angle. And I'm just taking the bind wire, and the nice thing about using this brown bind wire is it really blends in beautifully with the wreath. So you really can't even tell that it's there. You just want to make sure that you really clean up the back so that there's not all these kind of strange wires hanging out the back, especially if you're gifting it or making it for a client. I think wreaths are so interesting and beautiful all year around, and there's so many different ways to make them and varieties that you can do. So I've really grown to love them over the last few years. So you can see that I kind of have added them to either side and just had two kind of interesting focals there. And as I design, I'm really going to kind of be building around those focals. So this is grevillea, and it's just a really interesting color right now. Usually when a plant material is a little bit stressed, it can produce some really beautiful color. It's losing chlorophyll, or it may have been overwatered or underwatered, and sometimes that produces just the most interesting tones. So I was really drawn to this because of its brightness and how yellow it is. It normally is a lot more green and red, and I thought this was really perfect for this project of making something kind of fall inspired. So I've cut all these little laterals down. This really helps when you're doing production. If you have somebody in your studio that is not a designer and you need to give them a job, I teach them how to cut and break things down. And that way they can make these small pieces for me so that I can do the placement quickly, and they can just keep making me small usable pieces. And this works really well in any kind of production when you have when it's around Christmas time and you just have a lot of stuff to produce. Get some extra hands. They don't need to be a trained designer. Otherwise I have to, look at every piece and cut it, and it can just be incredibly time consuming to make this because there's so many stem insertions. So I'm kind of building a little pillow up around that. I think I'm always thinking about the way things are in nature when I'm designing, and I would imagine this lichen branch has fallen and there is, you know, this grevillea plant kind of growing up and around it. And I think just playing with those ideas and concepts is really a great way to explore new ideas of how you design. So I'm going to take these little bundles of wheat. Again, just bundle a little bit of it with my bind wire and then just lay it in here and secure it onto the wreath. Now, I'm going to do a few more of those and I'll be right back to show you how I put the rest of this in here. Welcome back. I have placed the bundles of wheat into the wreath design, and I'm just going to finish this up here for you by showing you two more ingredients that I really like to use. So the first one is pampas grass, and one of the tricks about pampas grass is in order to kind of break it down, you need to really find that rib. And so what I do is really push aside any of the feathery part and find that main rib on the inside, and then it helps me to break it down into smaller pieces. This really helps when you're making a wreath because you may not want, you know, these really huge massive pieces, but I like these smaller little plumes to just help me get a little bit of interest and color and variety in there. So I'm going to float just a few pieces of pampas in. I think it's such an interesting fall grass. Now it can shed quite a bit, so this is a preserved variety, which I think really helps to buy it preserved, but you can also spray it with a hairspray or a floral spray, and I can link that below. So I'm just layering in just a little bit of it for interest. The last thing I'm going to put in is this dried yarrow, and I purchased this from a farmer already dried, but I also actually really love to dry it myself as well. Now if you buy it, I found this beautiful orange variety. I like to give it plenty of space, and I hang it upside down in a dry area of my studio, and it will just dry absolutely beautifully. So I'm going to put just a few pieces of this yarrow in the design. This is incorporating, again, fresh materials with dried materials. I think that you can create such interesting designs if you consider using some dried materials along with fresh. And they can get expensive, so you definitely want to make sure that you're either playing with that, doing it yourself, but also just making sure that you're pricing that correctly, because dry materials can sometimes actually cost even more than fresh flowers. There's been a preservation process, so there's one extra step that somebody has had to take, and all of that costs money. So you could also go ahead and layer some of this fresh in. Again, I love to play with that combination of fresh product and dried, and I think having things that are in different stages of life always creates a more interesting arrangement. So I'm just taking the ends of these stems. Now again, yarrow is pretty wilt sensitive, so this would not last very long. You could easily water tube this, or just let it dry in there and see how it actually looks. Sometimes when things dry in a wreath, they dry beautifully. Other times they're not as successful, but I'm going to just lay in a few more pieces. I'm being really conscientious also to cover my mechanics. So I'm looking for any of those wires that are still showing. I definitely never want to see any of those mechanics that I used to secure things in the wreath. So make sure to be looking out for those things. One or two more pieces here and I think we're done. So I hope you enjoyed this little fall wreath demo, and that hopefully you'll be inspired to get out, cut some things from the yard, try some new things from your wholesaler. Of course, thanks for watching as always. Don't forget to like the video and of course subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the free floral education coming your way. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.